apparently Steven Crowder, mostly well known for him voicing, I believe it was the Brain on Arthur, right? Was it Brain? I think so. I forget. Doesn't really matter, right? Steven Crowder went on Joe Rogan's podcast a while ago, and they disagreed about marijuana, which is interesting because it's such a universally like supported policy to almost at this point to like decriminalize or legalize marijuana on the federal level. Like, people like weed, and I'm on that boat, and I think most sensible people are on that boat. It's a very popular policy, and in fact, I'm hoping that Joe Biden's going to officially add legalizing weed to his agenda, hopefully soon. Maybe it's going to do it in time for the 2022 midterms, because he knows that the Republicans will never endorse legalizing marijuana anytime soon. So if he does it then and then puts them on the back foot, then at least he has something he can run on, But I don't know. I think the odds of that might be low, right? And I might be being a little hopeful here. But anyway, Joe Rogan and Steven Crowder went back and forth on marijuana usage, and I heard it was very interesting, so I did want to watch it.
Does I get criticized for that?
No, I think you're pretty consistent in that. And I think on the flip side, what we try and do is I say, listen, this is my bias. This is what I believe.
What's your bias?
Well, my bias, like you said, I'm right wing. I'm conservative.
If you had to if you go, God damn it, maybe I went too far down this road. If I could just relax one aspect of my dialogue, what would it be?
Hopefully, for me, if I could choose anything that he engages in that he could relax on, I think it would be queer people. Like, he has really just dug in on going after trans people. Like, his episode on What's the Story Hopper on AIDS, dude, that was fucking weird. His recent stuff on how gay sex is I feel like if he just pulled back on that a little bit, I'd appreciate it.
Me, it would be my pipe smoking.
Your pipe smoking? I probably wouldn't talk about the marijuana issue. I wouldn't care, because here's the thing: I don't care about it.
One way or the other.
But my issue with it is when, and we saw this in Montreal, I talked about it when people lie about it and they're dishonest with their voting constituency.
Like, how so?
Well, saying it's medicine for A, B, C, or D. It may be medicine.
Oh, dude, I gotta say, deciding to disagree with Joe Rogan about drugs on his podcast is probably the dumbest thing you could do. Because if you go on Joe Rogan's podcast, you could say everything, basically anything. It'd be like, dude, that's interesting, man. That's a good, I never thought of it that way. And you decided to bring up the one thing, after being asked about, the one thing you could listen up on, the one thing that Joe Rogan's going to have, literally every single infographic sheet on. It's the worst decision. The only worst, DMT, gonna debate him on MMA, these are the three things: DMT, weed, MMA. These are the three things you don't touch to debate Joe Rogan on.
Medicine for A, but not for B, C, or D.
Well, what are the B, C's, and D's?
Well,
what are the things that's not medicine
an example.
for?
Oh, you can see Joe Rogan right now. He's going through all his info sheets on his. He's like a shark now. You can see him. He put down the pipe. He's in shark mode. He tastes blood in the water, man. He smells it.
Well, you're asking me what I wouldn't talk about, and asking me to defend it. My point is, I don't really care about it.
But what are the B, C's, and D? What you said
it cures cancer.
Well, there has been shown
it helps with cancer about as much as turmeric and ginger. Those things help with cancer.
Anti-inflammatory things.
Yeah, I know, but it's not a prescription.
But CBD has been shown to have tremendous benefits for cancer and non-psychoactive.
Yeah, and certainly with seizures. I have zero problem with CBD being legalized. But my
issue
is
also cannabis.
I'll have to. Yeah, I feel the need to call people out in bullshit when they say, "Well, the reason it's not is because of big pharmaceutical companies." Go, hold on.
Look, I believe fundamentally that every candy jar and every nursing home in this country should be full of CBD gummies as a thank you to the greatest generation.
Hold on a second. There are 7 patents on chemical compounds for marijuana right now.
Right.
The people who stand to make the most out of marijuana legalization are pharmaceutical companies. That's why they make.
That's not true.
Well, it is. If you look at the biggest supplement companies, it's owned by the same pharmaceutical companies.
But you can't patent
and the one
plant.
Yes, you can. They've patented seven at
you
least.
You can patent strains that are GMOs.
No. 7 active chemical compounds.
The problem is there's also other companies that have specifically gone out and lobbied against marijuana legalization because they view marijuana as competition for things like alcohol, right? Cigarettes, like opioids, stuff like they can view it as competition. They don't want it in the legal game, because if it goes into the legal game, the marijuana usage, of course, is going to increase because it's going to be more widely available legally.
And pot that have been patented as drugs. They've gone through the process.
Yeah,
There's
but
one
you
that's
can't
really
patent it
efficient.
to the point where you can't grow pot. How would you stop someone if
Well, sure
pot's
you can.
legal? If pot's legal, how would anyone? And if that's the truth, then
No.
that's a real problem.
If pot is recognized as a medicine, right? If pot is
Okay.
recognized, there's no one who would stand to gain more than pharmaceutical companies by providing it as
that's
medicine.
not necessarily true.
Also, can I just say, who cares? Because there will be people who profit from marijuana legalization, right? And I say, literally, who cares? Just because a thing that is good also seems to benefit people that you don't like. By the way, I don't think that Steven Crowder has a principled problem with pharmaceutical companies. Definitely, since he is somebody who has been a huge defender of like private health insurance and not wanting public health insurance whatsoever and wanting healthcare to stay private. I don't really think he cares that much about doing something that is favorable towards pharmaceutical companies. But let's just say for a second that he did. It doesn't matter if it's favorable towards them, if that is the case, if it's also favorable towards everyday people.
People allowed to
At that point, you're just doing like politics out of spite, right?
Maybe
grow
it's
it
not necessarily
themselves.
true. I'll give you that. But I also think it's not necessarily true that the reason people can't smoke up is because big pharma is sitting somewhere.
Wait, what is, maybe that's not necessarily true. So it was not true. Okay. Why is the word necessarily needed?
Where, you know, Martin Shkreli going, oh, let's make pot illegal.
Well, not that
That's
guy.
my only point.
But there are absolutely people who have lobbied, as we talked about how the prison guard union
Yeah.
has lobbied to keep marijuana illegal. There's absolutely pharmaceutical companies who have done the same thing. It was revealed in the WikiLeaks memos.
See, this is where I was saying
it was,
I don't
hold
care
on,
about
don't
this.
interrupt me, you fuck. Where Hillary Clinton said that she's against marijuana in every sense of the word, right? You remember those
Trump's pretty
WikiLeaks
against it,
papers
too.
that came out?
Yeah.
Is he? He said he would leave it up to
No, Trump was against it. He legislated against it. Tough on drugs, man.
the states.
Yeah.
That's actually a constitutional approach.
But he wants to beef up the war on drugs.
You know why? I bet someone slipped him a pot cookie once and he looked at his hair in the mirror. And
No,
he
he's a
goes,
teetotaler. He doesn't even drink.
What the fuck?
Sold vodka, doesn't drink, Donald Trump. It's crazy.
Yeah. Ever?
No, he says he claims he's never had a
Colorado
drop.
topped $1 billion in legal marijuana sales in 2016.
Good.
Holla.
Yeah.
Holla at Colorado.
Yeah. But another thing that we just wrote about, and again, people get mad with the weed issue.
Economics.
Well, no. Traffic fatalities regarding marijuana have skyrocketed.
Google that because that's nonsense.
No.
You
Oh, damn.
Wrote
Okay.
about it on better.com.
drunk driving arrests have dropped. What do you mean you've? First of all,
Yeah, we wrote about what the sources
first of
are,
all,
the original studies.
Just because someone gets in an accident and they're high,
See, here's-
because hold on, stop.
No, hold on a second.
Joe Rogan is in like he's about to put Steven in like an ankle lock, man. He's about to go full Kurt Angle on this.
This is
you
because you just
interrupt
want-
way too much.
No, no,
You need to stop.
you talk in
Hold on a
paragraphs.
second. No. I don't talk in
Go ahead.
paragraphs. I make full points. If people are high a lot
Yeah.
and the same amount of fatalities exist, but the people that get checked once they get into these accidents happen to be high, it does not necessarily mean that marijuana caused those fatalities. It could be that you have an increased incidence of people doing marijuana and altercations that could not have been avoided.
It could be.
It could be.
But the statistical change is measurable.
well, what is
from
it?
pre and
You're
post.
talking about in Colorado.
In states where it's been decriminalized or
Let's
legalized.
go with Colorado. Pull it
So,
up,
hold on
Jamie.
a second. You just said, let me make my point. Again, my point is I don't care about it.
Yeah, you do.
No, I really don't.
You don't care about
No, here's
people
the thing.
dying? You
get
son of
no,
a
no, you get
bitch.
so touchy about it because someone says, you know
Holy
what,
shit.
if people want to smoke up, fine. I just don't really buy the arguments that everyone is in some big conspiracy to try and snuff it out.
No, there
and
are
the
some.
idea and the idea that the drug war will end and the idea that it's cures cancer. I just don't buy that. And
Well, it
people
does.
get
Dude, he just felt the energy of like somebody in this room doesn't like marijuana, and then he is just Joe Rogan decided it's chimp out time, man, and I love it.
so upset.
Well, listen,
That's my only point. That's why I
scientific
wouldn't talk about
studies
it.
have proven that it shrinks tumors, that it helps people with cancer, much like turmeric, much like any things that reduce inflammation, including
Turmeric,
CBD
ginger,
oil.
tart cherry.
Right, but it's not necessarily
fighting for
a
those to be-
magical. They're all legal, and there's no issue because they're not psychoactive.
Right.
But they are beneficial. So all these things are good. Marijuana.
Wait, was Steven Crowder about to make the argument like nobody's fighting for ginger to be legal? Yes, because ginger's already legal. What? Was he actually about to?
Much like turmeric, much like any things that reduce inflammation, including
Turmeric,
CBD
ginger,
oil.
tart cherry.
Right, but it's not necessarily
fighting for
a
those to be
magical.
legal.
They're all legal, and there's no
He actually was. Okay, got it.
issue because they're not psychoactive.
Brilliant.
Right.
But they are beneficial. So all these things are good. Marijuana is one of the things that are good. And don't
Dude, by the way, like, I love this. I love the back foot stuff on this. This is something that I feel like Democrats need to run on more because I feel like it's a political position that people just forget that the Republican Party is actually pretty dug in on, is the war on drugs. If Democrats messaged more on weed should be legal, weed should be legal, weed should be legal, we need to stop the war on drugs, I 100% think it would really hurt the Republicans if we put them on the defensive on that, where they have to defend this extremely unpopular position.
sure, man. Just like you don't sure to
And then you can point, I mean, Democrats could just point to the opioid epidemic and say, we're prescribing them opioids, but they can't smoke pot. We're prescribing people opioids, which is killing all these people. Not one people has died from just smoking pot, unlaced marijuana. And we're prescribing it. Dude, the messaging would be beautiful.
turmeric, you don't sure ginger, you don't sure a reduced sugar diet. All those things that reduce inflammation are good for you.
I don't buy that smoking marijuana would be as beneficial as a reduced sugar diet. And my point is that
you
people get
might
so
be-
offended
you
by
might
me
be
saying that
correct.
and saying, but if you want to smoke, go ahead.
You might be correct,
Shouldn't be
but
offensive.
it doesn't matter because it's not a fucking contest to see what's the most beneficial. The question is it beneficial and is it damaging?
It is. It does matter. The
What's
fact
damaging?
that you said that, no. Let me finish my point. It does matter. You said, what would you not talk about?
Okay, here it is. Thank you for the data, Fluff, as always. Let's read this quick. 2/3 of Americans support marijuana legalization. Like, yeah, like, look at this. In 2009, since 2009, it's been a winning position, man. Only 32% of Americans, and this is old data, meaning it's probably at like 70% by now, man. It's like 2 years old, almost 3 years old data, right? My God. Not even close. Even the majority of it's a winning issue. It's not even close, man.
I said probably pot because I don't care. Well, what do you think
You
about it? I
definitely
said,
care. That's
this
why
is
you're
what I
arguing
think
with me
about
about it.
And your eyes
Lying.
light up, and all of a
Lying
sudden,
bitch. You
where
care.
ideology and
You care
worldviews
like crazy.
shouldn't be discussed.
No, you
You're
care.
going to laser in like a tractor beam on the most important issue of the day that I said I don't care.
You're the guy that thinks people should be able to do whatever. You're a free
Yes,
market guy,
that's
right?
what I just said.
So if you're a free
Smoke
market
pot.
guy, why wouldn't you be in support of something, whether it's the most
I just
beneficial
said I am.
or equally
I just
beneficial?
said I am.
But you're not necessarily because
I
you're
am.
denying.
But because
you're
right now of the
denying-
chemical
hold on, fuck
compounds-
something, whether it's the most
I just
beneficial
said I am.
or equally
I just said I
beneficial.
am.
But you're not necessarily because
I
you're
am.
you're denying.
But because
you're
right now of the
denying-
chemical
Hold on,
compounds-
fuckface. You're
Well,
denying.
watch it. Come on, man. Come on. It's been a good
Oh,
conversation.
shit, we're friends. I'm just joking. Since marijuana legalization, highway fatalities in Colorado are at
Hold on a
near
second.
historic lows.
You haven't bringing up the source that you want to find.
Washington
Bring up the
Post.
study right there. Yeah, Washington Post. Bring up the study that we wrote. We wrote about it on our website.
Did you see that? Hold on, fuckface. Hey, come on. Come on, stop it. Come on, stop it. Yo, we're just joking around. Anyway, here's a source. You're wrong. Dude. The thing about Joe Rogan is I desperately want to like him, but then I hear him talk about vaccines and it just, it just instantly stops.
Look, I don't.
Like his interview with Tyson Fury was amazing, man. And and his podcast, unironically, is super interesting when it's like he's not bringing on people like Jimmy Dore.
Care about your website, you fuck. Since marijuana legalization, highway fatalities in Colorado
Since you
are
called me
at
hold on a second.
near
Since you called me, hold on a second. Since you called me a
lows.
fucking puss, and you do this with the crazy lady at a
come
comedy
on,
club,
buddy, I
you
like
think if
you.
you scream enough that it makes a point. My point is, I don't care
don't
about
think
it.
that if we
Smoke
scream
up.
enough-
And you just said I was interrupting. You're interrupting now. I'm
Listen,
screaming
because
I don't
Jamie
care about it
put
enough.
up a post and you're not.
But I don't
you're
buy
ignoring it.
that it's as valuable as a low sugar diet. And the fact
doesn't have to
the
be
fact
as
that
valuable.
Gotta say, the idea of making the argument like, well, this thing isn't as valuable as this other thing, therefore it should be illegal. Like, no, that shit's fucking wild, right? For example, like, I'm sure like certain medications are gonna be less effective as other medications. That doesn't mean you ban that type of medication, right? Like for example, I don't know, like let's say there's like one type of hammer that's more effective than another type of hammer. It doesn't mean you ban that type of hammer from existing. Definitely, if that other type of hammer has other uses recreationally, like for enjoyment.
You can't have a conversation about this as civilly as you did every other issue. Tells me that there's a problem. This is a TNT powder keg.
I can.
This
the
issue
problem
with
is
pot.
I get very defensive when people start talking over me, and you started it first. But the
Recreational hamager. Okay, maybe not the best analogy, but you get my point. Okay.
the reality is that a low sugar diet is fine.
Sure.
It's good too. Why is there a competition between a low sugar diet and turmeric and marijuana and CBD oil? Why? Why does it even have to be discussed?
Because one is making the claim regarding legality that it cures cancer.
Because
my
the
only
other
point is I
ones
don't
are
believe
legal.
it. No, my only point is
Because the other ones are already legal. They don't have to fight
yeah,
for
but
it.
no one's prescribing, no one's dishing out dispensaries for turmeric or ginger.
They
That's my
certainly
point.
are. If you go to these local juice shops,
Anyway.
you go to these juice shops, people are promoting ginger like crazy, turmeric like crazy.
I
Go
couldn't care if
online.
couldn't care less people want to smoke joints.
You're an ideologue, buddy.
Really? That's an ideologue position by saying leave it to the states?
Yeah, you're locked in, man.
Really?
You're locked deep into this fucking
Locked
red
how so?
state thing, man.
I was raised in a socialist province of Quebec.
Your bread is buttered, buddy.
A socialist province of
And
Quebec.
meanwhile,
Kevin Smith?
you're over here in America, fucking just as much of an immigrant as some dude who sneaks over the wall that Trump just built.
I was born in Detroit, so that remains to be seen. It could be annexed. It's a horrible
Could happen.
place. It's a horrible
Bad.
Detroit.
Have you seen that thing where there's a guy who is making an urban farm in Detroit?
Oh, that's very common in Detroit now.
Well, he's got the largest urban farm,
Yeah.
and he's bought up all this land.
Unironically, I was listening to like a TED talk. Like urban farming was actually like people really wanted urban farming to take off in Detroit. I don't know how effective it ended up being though.
And as he's bought up all this land, he's taking these like dilapidated houses, they tear them down, he's building his farm. Really cheap land, and people are getting pissed off at him. They're getting pissed off because this one guy now buys all this land. They're like, well, what about us?
Yeah.
And there's this weird thing that's going on where people somehow or another are mad at this guy who's going to do something positive.
If I'm not mistaken on that story, I could be wrong, but urban farming was a real. We wrote about
Amazing.
that when we did this report in Detroit. I was telling actually Jamie about it beforehand. We did a real-time ride-along because people said we selectively edited the worst parts of Detroit. So I went back with my producer, Not Gay Jared. We
So are they
still
done?
a mileage tab to
The point is, they felt like that should have been somehow or another a part of their world. Change is a real part of being an organism that lives on a planet.
Right.
The ocean rises.
Okay, I think that's enough. I think they're done talking about it. But I wanted to check out this debate because it's an oldie but a goodie. And unironically, like Joe Rogan did really good here at the ending with the source showing that Steven Crowder's narrative might not have been as concrete as he was proposing. I think it was pretty cool. Pretty cool appearance. Has Steven Crowder ever gone back on Joe Rogan after that? I think it should be like an annual tradition of him going on Joe Rogan's podcast just to debate him on weed and get smashed. He did? Yeah, it is a pretty large podcast. Who wouldn't? Joe Rogan calls him a communist? Amen, finally. Finally calling him out for his communists.